And here we go. Welcome to episode 73 of what is once again Three Bros Podcast minus one.
Minus one.
But that's okay. Well,
Two bros.
The best ones dropped out, which that's not okay. But hey, you know what? We're going to just make do with the two turds, and we'll see where it goes.
Wow. Let's see what two turds can create.
You have a couple articles? Start us off there, brother.
Sure. This week in Triggered, Duke University professor removed over speak English email. So essentially this was at Duke University. It is a Master of Biostatistics program, which apparently attracts a lot of individuals from China who are primarily Chinese speaking. And essentially what happened was she runs this program, or she's the head of this program. And one of the professors came into her office and said, "Hey, I need the name of a couple of students who are in the library, speaking and like having a conversation just like loudly, but not in English." Mm-hmm. And the implication was that this professor might be discouraged on working with these students in the future because of that type of attitude towards like not speaking. Hang on, let me specifically read what happened here. So two faculty members had asked her if she had photos of students on the master's program before picking out a number of first-year students who they observed speaking Chinese, in their words, quote, very loudly in the student lounge study areas. Dr. Neely said the faculty members told her they wanted to write down the names so they could remember them if the students ever interviewed for an internship or asked to work with them for a master's project. They were disappointed that these students were not taking the opportunity to improve their English and were being so impolite as to have a conversation that not everyone on the floor could understand.
Really quickly, that's the most important paragraph in the whole article for me.
Sure.
She
sent out an email
for that and pasted that in thoughts that I wrote for the article.
Right, like
it's the flagrant retribution that is like, that's the tough part of that paragraph, because the rest of this isn't so bad to me. Go ahead. I apologize. My bad. Keep going.
Well, so there's a reason. This lady's not just being a bigot here. I don't think. I think there is a reason she's sending out this email, because she. I mean, again, depending on how you want to look at it. It's one of those things
where you weren't trying to be, but you are one. But you weren't trying to be, but you are one.
To international students, she continued, please keep these unintended consequences in mind when you choose to speak in Chinese in the building. I encourage you to commit to using English 100% of the time when you are in the HOC, which is the name of the faculty building, or any other professional setting.
So there's another paragraph that I read that I copied. She added that she respected international students for learning in a non-native language, but I encourage you to commit to using English 100% of the time when you are in HOC, like you said, or any other professional setting. But then the article goes on to say that, like, listen, the article goes on to quote other people and talk about how, like, in the classroom, these kids are speaking English. Like, we're talking about when you say in a professional setting, I don't even think those kids would even disagree with that. They probably were just hanging out, just chilling.
I guess, yeah, that's important.
What's like, that's,
you got to know what the context is.
Let me read two more paragraphs for my kind of evidence for this. Another paragraph goes, a group calling themselves Concerned Duke Students said in a petition that they were gravely concerned with the implication that students of diverse national origin will be punished in academic and employment opportunities. And that's the key thing, the academic employment retribution that two professors, like, there's another part of this article where they quoted Chinese students who said, like, hey, the person who sent this email is a good person, not racist, nothing to see here. It's the two faculty members who were asking about names for potential future retribution. That's where it gets flagrant. That's where it's like, come on, what are you doing? So a third student of Asian descent said, Megan is truly the best instructor and mentor I ever had. And that's the person who wrote the email. Mm-hmm. She made a mistake with her email, which of course she did. Her verbiage was not good, but we still know what was her intention and how much she cares about us. So it's more about the two faculty members that scares people in the retribution, which I find flagrant. So
Well, the lady who sent the emails was the one who got fired.
Oh my
Ultimately here.
God, she did get fired? I didn't read
She
that.
did.
Oh no. Oh my God, that changes everything. Now I'm so mad at the university.
Well,
For
hang on, let me
Sear?
confirm this now. Yeah, no. Duke University professor removed over speak English email.
Okay. No, well, probably
Has
removed from leading the
has been
department.
removed as director of a graduate
Yeah,
program.
there you go.
Okay. Does
So
that
she
not
was removed as
mean
director.
fired necessarily?
So she was removed as director. And look, initial reaction
Okay.
is that's still flagrant because she didn't mean anything negative, right? I don't think, but I'm not gonna. If she didn't lose her job, she doesn't lose pay. She just lose like stature and what she's in control of. I'm not gonna disagree with that. That's an internal decision, and I don't. I maybe wouldn't have done that, but whatever. Like that's fine. It's when people lose jobs, lose paychecks, when lives are affected that I start to wince. But if you didn't and you just, hey, we're gonna take you down from this leadership position, but you still are a professor, then I don't have any problem with that. So
It is interesting though, and there's another article that somewhat loosely is related to this idea. Um,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Tom Brokaw.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Oh, he was on Meet the Press. That's what he was on. Veteran NBC News presenter Tom Brokaw has been criticized for saying on the network that Hispanic Americans should work harder at assimilation, and that's in quotations.
Hmm.
Um,
So I think what people took issue with here is he said work harder, as if people aren't already either trying to assimilate or just because of proximity and being around a bunch of people who speak a certain language, you're just going to assimilate anyways. I think that's probably because he did issue an apology.
do you think that's necessarily true though? I mean, he did issue an apology.
He did
Yeah.
issue an apology. What do I think that?
But I feel like he issued an
Do I
apology to
think
save
that?
face, not because like what he thought he said was actually wrong.
I think the premise of work harder at assimilation makes people think there's a little bit, and you can tell me if you don't think this at all, but to me there's a little tinge of fear mongering in the sense that you're basically saying people who come here who don't speak the same language, who maybe have different cultures, are actively trying to change our culture, which I think is a little ridiculous, and I don't think they're trying to.
But
You know?
objectively by participating in a different culture, they are to some extent changing the culture. 'Cause
Okay,
they're
but
part
are
of
they
the culture.
intentionally? Are they like evil people that are like
There's no evil.
master
Nobody
plan?
said evil. Nobody said evil. That's
No, I
where
know,
you get
I
the
know, I
slant in there, and
understand.
that's not
I
allowed.
understand. No, 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 I understand. But what I'm saying is when you say they
Nobody's
should work hard,
demonizing these people.
I understand. I'm just telling you the feel I get. You can tell me that you don't get that feel, and I told you that. Fair enough. Okay, but just the feel I get, and these are assumptions, so I'm making an ass out of you and me. I know. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but the feel that I get when you say work harder at assimilation, that goes down a road of you know there's some sort of like master plan of trying to change. Just feels like that to me. That's definitely
Trying
jumping
to
to conclusions, but
change.
like that other people would be coming here with the intention of some plan of like actually trying to change our culture.
No, I don't see that's I don't think that's what he's saying though. See, now you're adding this
No,
like
this is just a
intentioned
feel. Listen,
racist
how many
slant on
times do I
it.
have to say
Right,
no?
but
How
that's
many
it's
times do I have to
unfair, I
say?
think. I think
Of
that's an
course it
unfair
is. I'm just telling
presumption
you
that
how
you
I
make.
feel about it.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
It's unfair. That's just a feeling I get, and I'm trying to tell you like
I don't think Tom Brokaw is trying to
from
demonize
no,
Latinos.
I agree, which is why he apologized. Also, that context matters here. This is why I brought it up. I agree. And look, you can apologize and you can be forgiven. People should be forgiven, no doubt. Maybe how many times I put my foot in my mouth? Like, come on, we all know. So I get it. I'm just trying to maybe explain why people might have been outraged. Because once again, I think most
That's
of us
fair.
agree. Like he apologized. There's not too much here. If you apologize, that tells me that you kind of put your foot in your mouth and talked faster than your brain was thinking, which is what I do all the time. So how am I
Well,
going to ever,
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we're in a day and age where people can say things that I don't think they should be apologizing for, and yet enough of a mob will form where Maybe you have to just save face.
Yeah, that's fine. But this one, I think he should have apologized for. And
Really?
no problem. No problem. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't look. This
Because what is he talking about here?
If you say
what is he talking about? He said he told NBC's Meet the Press that he had been arguing for some time that Latinos in the U.S. should be ensuring that their children speak English.
So,
do you have a problem with that?
These people are generally going to, my rebuttal to that would be these people are generally going to be low income people who send their kids to public school anyways. Like, they're going to speak English. Like, I'm not worried about that. Like, that's not anything to worry about. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that feels fear mongery to me because you're acting like they don't like want to learn English, or like they're gonna, if you grow up and go to public school, whatever, like they're just gonna speak English. Like, you don't have to worry about that. There's no worry there.
The very fact that he's mentioning something here means that he thinks there is somewhat of a problem where there are these communities that don't necessarily.
Okay, then show me where this is such a problem that, you know.
Well, I don't know.
Sure.
This article
that's what I would say to him. No, I'm telling you what I would say to him. I would say,
sure.
I would say, Mr. Brokaw. No, I would be like, listen, man, I don't. That's fine. That's a problem. You need to show me evidence that that's such a big problem that it's like,
sure, not
happening already. Like, kids go to, especially low income kids of immigrants. Come on, they're going to public school. They're not going nowhere else. You go to public school, you're gonna learn English. You might learn. No, you're just gonna learn English. You just will. You're gonna be around people. I don't worry about stuff like that. I try to separate out what feels like fear.
I guess there's a greater idea. It's not fear. I don't think it's fear mongering. I don't think Tom Brokaw.
It's fear mongery. All right, I'm not. You're not wrong. Once again, this is all Cyril feels. No doubt. You can just say,
sure. This week I'm triggered. Well, so there's a greater idea here that I think is what Tom Brokaw is hinting at, and it's that that cultural cohesion is important, right? Like,
and
we don't have an official language in the United States.
Yeah, I agree. I don't. I agree with you. I don't think he's fear mongering. I just said the words. I'll be more specific. The words themselves fear mongery, dude. In the whole context, no, he's not fear mongering. He just, poor choice of words, apologized for it. It just, I can see how it made people feel a type of way, and to think that having a population that I don't even know what the percentage is, I don't know what the percentage of people in this country. What's the percentage you think of people in this country that can speak English, even if they're bilingual, but can at least speak English? Like 95%,
80%.
97. Oh my God! You think there's 20% of people who literally can't speak English at all? That's crazy. What? Who do you run into every day? 1 out of 5 people you run into every day doesn't speak English at all.
A lot of people from Quebec.
Where do you live?
Strictly French. It's
if you live in like pockets of New York City, then I might be. But you live in. Stop it. Stop.
Listen, that's not my point here. I guess.
Oh, sure. No, I know.
I feel like he got in trouble for a thing that I don't necessarily disagree with. Like, if you're obviously
come on. Can you agree with that? He needed to word it better. Because the way he worded it makes it seem like that assimilation doesn't just happen anyways, no matter how you like.
Well, it doesn't necessarily just happen though. That's also the thing.
Okay, then I want to see. Is there any city in America that speaks all not, or at least even a majority not in English? Is there any county? Is there any? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. And even if there is, there needs to be a lot. Like, come on, we're obviously a melting pot. So you can find pockets of New York City. You can find probably. Oh, I see you Googling. Nice. We should Insta Google on this pod, no doubt.
Oh, I forgot I was screen sharing.
No, no doubt. Keep sharing it. You were Googling it.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, do it up.
This says that's not a problem.
Lock your screen though. Lock your screen. It's not a problem. That says it's not a problem. See, that's what I would have thought.
Okay, it's not a problem if you are bilingual, obviously. Like, as long as you can. But I guess English, the greater idea he's pointing to here, I think, is that it's important for, especially now, because we see these like 2 huge camps sort of diverging in America, where people are just seeing each other as other, and that's a problem. Now, it's not necessarily just the responsibility of people who are immigrants to try and like change that. It's obviously also that is something that the main culture should be concerned with like not making these groups of people as other rather than like we are all actually American. We are all sort of guided by these same ideas and principles and we're all working towards something. It's that idea of just like a greater cultural society, like this idea that we're pursuing, whatever that may be. That's incredibly important to any sort of country.
But
I think
everybody,
that's what he's getting at here.
and everybody would agree with that. I just think that he's worried. I would agree with that, and I would say that he's worried about something he shouldn't be worried about. That's what I would say.
Okay.
He's clearly saying in some way that he worries that there are some people who don't work hard enough at assimilation. Like that's
Are you saying yeah? But I'm more inclined to think Tom Brokaw as
Randy's
a reporter.
A first generation immigrant, right?
Yeah, but where do you live? I mean, like,
I don't even know what that means. What do you mean?
In terms of like, there are absolutely definitely pockets of specific cultural.
I live downtown in a
communities
city that's pretty diverse, even. And
yeah, but that's not. We're not talking about mixed.
Oh, sure,
we're not talking about mixed communities here. You're talking about isolated communities that are in and of themselves maybe developing pockets of just the identity they bring from home and sort of resisting joining that greater sense of like culture in America.
Okay, but even if there's people who resist, even if there's people who try to resist, it's it's not you just assimilate eventually. You just do. You just do.
Sure. Okay.
You just do.
Okay.
And that's why I don't worry about it. That's all I've been saying the whole time.
Sure. Okay.
Like I just don't worry about it.
I feel like you're just making a couple of presumptions here. I mean, if Tom Brokaw is clearly hinting, I mean, he has some idea of something that he believes is going on in the United States that he thinks is needs to be fixed, or not fixed, but something we could do better at.
Something what?
I don't know. I feel like he didn't have to apologize for this.
Look, I don't think he had to apologize, but he definitely worded it poorly. I've said that from the beginning of this, and I'm still going to stand by that. You shouldn't have worded it like that. There's always a way to word things that isn't fucking divisive or is critical of people. Like, it's just not, you're just making general assumptions about a whole populace. It's just, you want to stay away from that. That's the one size advice tonight for public figures that nobody gives a shit about. All right, just try not to preach to a whole broad section of populace as if they're like not doing enough. Like, it's just, don't do that. Stay away from that. And that's what this feels like to me. Feels like just he's saying like generally people who come here like have to work hard at assimilation. Like, look, they do just by existing here. If you try to exist here and you only know Spanish, you're going to be forced to learn English because you're going to go to the store and you're going to be fucked. Okay. So like you're forced to assimilate anyways. That's my point. So I just don't worry about it. I'm not at all concerned that like society is slipping towards an all Spanish speaking or a non-English speaking society at all. I'm just not. So we'd have to be importing a whole bunch of people. So. Okay, Chad went silent, so seriously, Chad, are you there? Seriously? How far are we? Chad, are you there?
Hello?
There you are, dude.
Sorry about that.
What happened?
I don't know. My mic went a little wonky there.
All right, no worries. Any
All right.
rebuttal to what I said, or you don't give a crap, or what?
So I mean, I don't know how much I missed of you talking there. Everything kind of just went quiet.
Oh, you didn't hear me.
The last thing I said
That's
though
all right.
was I just
Have
don't
the
think
last
he
word,
should
and we'll
have.
move on. Go ahead.
I just don't think he should have apologized.
Should
I mean, he
apologize.
surely
Yeah,
he probably could
that's fair.
he definitely could have explained himself better, but
Yeah.
I don't disagree with just this greater idea that that like these fragmented types of society just it's fine to have these cultural pockets, absolutely, but just like that greater sense of being an American is important. So
Yeah. He doesn't say fragmented society either. He just, that's what happens when you
he does
generalize. That's why you need to be, oh, does he? Where?
No, I was gonna say he does specifically say Hispanics, which is interesting.
Yeah, but you're painting a broad brush there.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's dangerous.
Yeah,
Like,
fair enough.
disagrees that when you go into a new culture, you're going to have to assimilate. You're going to have to adjust. Nobody disagrees with that. It's the painting of the broad brush. If he literally called out specific, proven, he can say, I've been there, first-hand experience communities that are segmented off and that should be working harder, then I'm open ears. But he said Hispanics. So just be careful, boys and girls. All right.
I agree. Are we talking about Finland?
Yeah, go ahead.
Finland basic income. Universal basic
UBI.
income. A revolutionary new idea in terms of social nets for people who can't support themselves. So Finland, one of those Scandinavian countries, those damn social democrats, decided to give this a shot. They did a Finland basic income trial, and the title here says Finland basic income trial left people happier but jobless. So from January 27th, 2017 until December 2018, 2,000 randomly selected unemployed Finns got a monthly flat payment of 560 euros, so $634 equivalent. The aim was to see if a guaranteed safety net would help people find jobs and support them if they had to take insecure gig economy work. I guess the idea is if you give people a bit more of a safety net financially, they can find jobs easier, or at least train themselves, or maybe get.
I assume also that means they can supplement low income work, so they can start out with getting experience. I feel like that's what that's trying to do, you know. So you can take a low paying gig and supplement it with the payments that you get to make it while you get experience. I think the idea is it helps with opening up opportunity, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah,
because at least here in this country, if you know, I don't know, say you're a 45-year-old newly divorced mom who's never worked a day in her life, that might be really tough to get the experience and still pay the bills. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Right. UBI has always been something for me, though, in a different context. Because the times that I hear about UBI is when we talk about like 50 years down the road when jobs are few and far between. Right. The majority of people just can't have a job. So this is interesting. But also it apparently, I mean, of course, this is one trial, but it didn't help people find jobs. So what do you think that's about?
So specifically, it's 2,000 unemployed Finns already.
Yes, they were already on unemployment.
Yeah. So I don't. We always want to try to find meaning in something because this was a study with people, but it's so small. Like, I actually, when I was reading the article, whether it's Finland, the BBC, or both, like something about testing, because it said center-right government implemented this, I believe.
Yeah, so but center-right means something different in Finland.
Sure, fair enough. But something about testing an idea and collecting the data, and then like seeing that and like making policy decisions based off that excites me. Like, why can't we engineer society? I don't get it. Like we're so advanced in so many ways, and yet we still have these like sometimes orange gas bags that take power who just, it's just like, Jesus Christ, like we can't engineer society. There's got to be a way.
What do you mean by engineer society?
Like we still have politicians in power who will claim that no context at all, just trickle down high end earner tax cuts will help everybody. And that's not supported by any evidence at all. There's been time and time again where we've tried that and we haven't really seen that effect. So factual data collecting, and I don't want to say factual in this day and age, just data collecting and crunching numbers and just finding the right levels of balance in all areas to make it so that, like, you have a healthy middle class, but you still have inequality that allows people to like compete, right, and innovate. It's just, nope, we sit here and just throw darts at a wall, it feels like.
Yeah, well, hey, if anything, this throws it back to my boy Tom Brokaw, because like what I was talking about there, I think extends well past just first generation immigrants trying to assimilate. It's just this idea of like a greater collective attitude towards us trying to do the best for us as Americans. We are so sharply divided right now, insanely sharply divided. People are literally just tearing, like families are being torn apart just by politics, just that identity that you happen to fall, whatever aisle that may be. And it's when we keep pulling at the reins at each other like that, we literally move nowhere. It just gets worse. And then people like Trump get elected. And you're like, oh, it's just like the result of just a really toxic type of system.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. I don't know.
Well, I'm just
families
saying,
being
man.
torn apart is subjective. I mean, the Civil War happened too. I think we'll be all right. I just,
I'm just saying that's what our problem is. That's why we can't get. You're talking about engineering society. You can't get anything done if half your government disagrees with the other half.
Yeah,
just nothing happens. So there's your problem. I love that Finland did this.
Yeah, no, and that was my original point, right? Like I read through the article and they interviewed people who were part of this, and just everything felt like it was honest. Hey, let's try this and let's see what happens. Like, let's not put no politics into it. Just like, hey, let's just see what happens. Collect the data, ask these people. There's something sexy to me about just running that trial and just seeing what happens and being honest about it, and crunching the numbers. And
well,
because this one, specifically to this article, the effect is a gray area, right? It says it didn't help them necessarily find jobs, but more than otherwise would have, but it made them happier, which to me makes sense.
Less stressed and happier.
Yeah.
Well, because you can't live on $600 a month, but it's certainly just sort of just a bit of a boost, a little bit of a boost.
Mm-hmm. Mr. S said that while some individuals found work, they were no more likely to do so than a control group of people who weren't given the money. I feel like something about that makes sense to me, because people, even if you get a little bit of UBI, you still have to work. People, it's, people who don't work usually get, people who don't work, yes, you can demonize some of them for just being lazy, blah, blah, blah. There are those people, but most people that don't work literally just can't, like, for whatever reason. Mentally unstable, physically not able, I don't know, whatever the heck. You have 3 kids at home like Rachel, and you what's the point? Because you just pay for daycare. There's a lot of reasons why people don't work. So it makes sense to me that if you pick 2,000 just randomly unemployed people, they're not just going to find employment, because it's not just like money. Yeah, the money just doesn't just equal employment. Like, these people were just, it makes sense to me that they were kind of the same as the control group. Like, just because they got the money, it doesn't mean that they weren't still trying to look for jobs, or that they couldn't work anyways because of whatever.
Yeah, this was one of the things where, and
it also
again,
doesn't surprise me really quickly, by the way, that people were happier because, like you said, less stress. Like, when you don't have financial worry, that's definitely helpful for your stress levels in life. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Financial stress is one of the greatest sources of stress in the world. I think most people would probably admit that. I mean, not the top stressor in people's lives, but certainly up there. Just like a nagging sort of like, damn it, man. But yeah, that was one of the things that I found interesting about this, because it seems like they just gave these people money. They said, there's no stipulations. We're going to give you an extra 600 some odd dollars a month, and we'll see how it goes. Which is interesting, because I feel like, and again, it depends on what you want, what your intention of your universal basic income is. But in this case, if you're trying to help people find jobs, give them that however much a month, but also help them out a bit. Like, I guess the idea is, if you give these people money, they can train themselves in new skills so they can get jobs. Surely you could maybe help them along the way a bit more in like identifying maybe what skills they should be trying to find and how they can go about pursuing that, and maybe paying for those classes. Like, if your intention is to get these people into new jobs, sure, give them a bit of sustenance a month so they're a little less stressed. And then with that, maybe that frees up a bit of their time. You can then help them out further along in finding those new jobs, if that's the intention of this model. So I feel like just giving people money isn't enough. I feel like it definitely helps, but you gotta guide people a bit.
These are complicated. To extend off your point too, great point. There's 2 paragraphs I'm about to read. So it says, for a lot of people on the left, UBI focuses too heavily on individuals' personal wealth and buying power, or rather their lack of it, without doing anything to stop companies wasting resources by producing far more stuff than people need and overworking their employees in the process. Economics writer Grace Blakely makes this point in The New Socialist, adding that without fundamental structural reforms to our economic system, UBI will only be a sticking plaster papering over the cracks. And that's a good point, yo. Like, you can hand these people money in this system where you're trying to help them, but it seems like the system's broken in the first place if this helps them. Like, you know, like, you don't have to agree with people on the left about changing the system, or even people on the right. You just, like, something, if the goal is these people, or if we're saying these people are in a place where they shouldn't be, let's give them extra money. Well, then what the hell's going on with the system that, you know, makes, now nothing's perfect, but how damaged is the system if this is considered on a widespread scale? It's like, okay, the system might be a little messed up. Maybe we can rethink a little bit here, you know? So.
Yeah, I feel like money works, but only if you also
and I specifically like
more direct.
Especially branching off what you said, I specifically like the UBI will only be a sticking plaster papering over the cracks. There's a lot to be said there.
Right.
So.
I think that money will just relieve the stress, but if you truly want to help these people find jobs, you can do more. You can do more.
Sure.
So there you go.
Okay. All right. The last thing is this video, which I feel like we're gonna bring this back up with Caleb, because Caleb sent us this video.
Yeah.
And honestly, basically video of a professor who was at Davos for the World Economic Forum, which is historian. He was at Davos a couple days after the World Economic Forum, or during it, who cares, whenever the fuck, and was just kind of talking about how it's not necessarily mainstream to talk about high marginal taxes, even though in the history of our country, let alone other countries, like, we've had high marginal tax rates. Like, you watched the video, I'm sure, and in the video it shows that other forum. It said, 2 days before we had a forum here, and everybody was laughing when the 70% marginal tax rate was a question given to a billionaire because they were like, oh, of course he's not going to like this. And everyone's like just laughing about it, which I'm not hating on people laughing. Like, that's fine. It was kind of funny in the context, but like, or in the context of that day, but in the greater context, it's not really that funny. Yeah, right. It's really not that funny. It really feels kind of dirty to laugh about the fact that like we don't have a system that really works that well for a lot of people right now. And it might be, and whatever, we're not economists. Okay. I'm not trying to I'm not advocating for anything when I say this, but we have a system right now that might not serve us so well. And it has low taxes on rich people causing extreme wealth. And, things aren't as good as they might have once been under different tax rates. I was talking to someone last night. And I was like, dude, Amazon was started when? 1994, 95? And Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, not 20-something odd years later. Like, think about that. Just think about that on a large scale. Like, how much sense does that make? Like, is the way that we've set the system up working properly, if that can happen? That's a good question to ask. And that's fine if someone says yes, then you just need to tell me why you think that way.
Well, so he did do something revolutionary.
And that's fine. And I got that. But we have infrastructure that's garbage. We're rated D+, right?
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the private market.
That has everything to do with
taxes.
Jeff Bezos couldn't maybe be worth $60 billion. We could have taken the other $60 billion and invested in infrastructure in this country. I'd sign up for that. I bet you a lot of Americans would sign up for that. And Jeff Bezos still gets $60 billion. Still going to have $60 billion. Go ahead.
Sure. No. Relax. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what this ultimately boils down to, and I feel like this is every time this is what the taxes conversation to the core becomes about. Yeah. Is do you trust the government or do you trust private market to better reinvest that money? Now, the government's concerned with the people primarily, right? Because those are the ones who give them the power. But there's a lot of bullshit that gets in the way there. And to some extent, so is business. It's very dependent on the people participating in whatever it is you're selling.
Sure.
But again, there's a lot of bullshit that gets in the way there. There's the ways that you can influence the market, become a monopoly, etc.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking about two.
When it comes to, and I'm going to get specific here. And if you want to be general after I'm specific, that's fine. Specifically when it comes to infrastructure, nobody else is going to build the roads, dude.
I agree.
So asking the question, do you trust government, is stupid when it comes to infrastructure. Because that's literally what has to happen.
Sure.
Now, we can talk about other areas where you can say, oh, do you trust government? Fine. And I'm not going to answer yes to every area.
But we're not talking about roads, when it comes to
infrastructure, which we literally, no shit right now, are graded so poorly on.
It's bad.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Everyone knows that's what everyone knows the infrastructure.
Yeah. And then a lot of people, I get it. People chafe at the idea of taking things from others, especially when they came up with some whatever. But come on, does the man need 120 billion? Is 60 billion okay? And then we take half of it and invest it. Especially, I think the good argument is infrastructure. I'm sorry I keep coming back to that. It's just a good one.
It is, because it's something that literally everybody benefits from.
Correct.
Our country would come to a screeching halt if our infrastructure failed. That's just facts.
So, and let's not even talk about infrastructure. Let's talk about the deficit. Like, how do we pay that? Go ahead.
I think what we should do is we should tax the people that stagnate their money. Like, if you want to make the argument that, hey, I'm making a lot of money and I invest back in my business, I invest in new businesses, I invest in ideas, fine. We'll tax you way less. But if your money gets stagnant, if you are making ludicrous amounts of money and you just sit on it, and you don't, what can you do as an individual with $80 billion, right?
Sure.
Not much for yourself to build. If you want to build, or if you want to build things, or if you want to build businesses, there's a lot you can do with 80 billion. If you want to just live a life of luxury, 80 billion is just an unbelievable amount of excess. It's unnecessary. Let's look at the people that let their money stagnate. Those are the people that are like, what are you really doing then? If you're not really reinvesting that money, you don't need it.
Right. You bring up a great point. And there was, I think it was How Does One Start a Political Podcast, an early podcast where it was just me and Caleb. It was soon after the tax cuts. And I was, I'm triggered about them. I still am to this day. And me and Caleb were just, BS and talking about things and how they should work. And there is a potential grand bargain between liberals and conservatives. And me and Caleb hashed it out that night. It was a lot of fun, that talk on tax cuts. Fine. But the problem I had with the tax cuts in 2017 is they talked about what they would do without specifically directing the companies to do it. You're the government. You have the power to say, we're going to give you these tax cuts, but we're going to come and we're going to fucking, it's called the IRS. We're going to come in and we're going to make sure that you're reinvesting it. And if you don't, then you're going to be taxed at a high rate. If you don't actually do what we are promising people these tax cuts will do. We're telling the American people these tax cuts will come back into your pocket. Let's make that happen. Let's write that in the bill. Let's spend some money to make sure that gets done. This idea that we just give, and Caleb agreed too. Caleb was like, I don't know why we don't direct say, okay, you get these cuts, but these cuts have to be reinvested. Let's say 50% in workers, 50% in the rest of the company. And if you don't, then we're going to tax it at a high rate. And I'm going to take that money that I taxed you and I'm going to put it in the pockets of the worker. Like, there's a grand bargain there.
I agree. Yeah. Listen, that's literally the reason that government exists is to be this mediating force for all of us. Right. Like, we all live in a society together. We all agree to some extent the amount of money we're going to pay to this governing body to keep us governed properly. Infrastructure, healthcare, whatever, any of these things. So why is it not doing a better job of governing? Like, if you're going to give up these tax cuts 100%, why are we not creating stipulations for these companies to actually invest back into their companies or their workers or et cetera? It doesn't make sense. It's so frustrating.
We got leaders who understand that we can write laws to cut taxes to free up money for things, but don't understand that they can also create laws directing the money. Jesus Christ, you idiots.
Right. Well, sir, would you say that
promising things and write it in the bill so that it gets done?
Well, you and I were talking about this. It was that the trickle down this morning before you took off back to Buffalo's. Trickle down for a second. And it was like,
force them to trickle down.
Trickle down works. Right, exactly. Trickle down works if you force their hand. If you tell them you have to invest back into your company and your workers.
Right.
But if you say, here's a bunch of money, okay, we're hoping that you trickle it down properly, and they just keep most of the money, that's typically what ends up happening. Like, tell these people to actually invest back into their businesses. Everybody just wants to, like, glob onto their huge chunk of money, however much that might be.
All I'll say is I'll end it on this comment.
Sure.
We are talking about fundamentally changing how companies and things may work, because as it currently sits, investors put a lot of pressure on just making sure profits are as high as possible because they get to take that home.
Mm-hmm.
And if we radically shake things up and say, hey, a lot more has to go into reinvesting into the business and actually paying to the workers, there's going to be people that are upset with that have a lot of power and money. So,
right, because they want to hold on to that money.
That's all I'm going to say.
But that's what right. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Understood.
And I just think these people are the same people that pull the strings on a lot of politicians and a lot of policy making. So I wouldn't hold your breath. That's all.
Yeah. Well, it's just frustrating because, like, taxes could work great if we were just completely efficient at how those taxes get spent. Like, trickle down would work very well if we were just very good at actually trickling down.
I love how things always tie together on every single topic, every single pod. Dude, engineer society. Like I said earlier. Come on,
society.
Like, we can, I know it sounds weird to say it, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can engineer society.
We need better leaders.
We can engineer craft to make it to the moon. We can't engineer society so that we have a healthy, strong middle class, but we also have healthy competition and inequality that still drives and pushes innovation. It can be done. Figure it out, yo. It's so stupid. All right.
Wow. Are you telling me, Cyril? Are you telling me that we can do better? Is that what you're telling me?
We can do better. How'd you like that song when I sent it? Yo, when I first
said
that,
I did.
What'd you say? You were like, that's real campy, but something like that.
So cheesy.
Cheesy, there it is. Yeah.
Great song. Unbelievable.
All right. We'll see you next week with the third person.
There you go.